Before I start, if you all could make sure you're muted, I'm hearing a lot of background noise. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the January 19th, 2020 Eugene City Council public hearing. Thank you for joining us in this remote meeting format we're using in response to Governor Brown's Stay Home, Save Lives order. This format enables us to meet, hear from the community, and take care of business while keeping everyone safe. Anyone wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by following the instructions listed for this meeting on the public webcast and meeting materials web page. If you join the meeting via computer, device, or phone, your microphone, webcam, and phone are automatically muted when you enter the meeting as an attendee. There are 2 public hearings on tonight's agenda. For those wishing to testify, please wait to raise your virtual hand until I announce that it is time to do so in my introductory remarks. Requests will be accepted until the first person begins to testify. As a reminder, we are now allowing speakers the option of turning on your video when you are called on to provide testimony. As each speaker's turn is announced, the meeting moderator will temporarily promote you to panelist status, and you can unmute and turn on your video if you wish. Please be aware that there may be a slightly longer transition for this all to happen, and so just bear with us. Also, I enjoy everyone to use this new increased access in a responsible way. Our intent is simply to see each other's faces when testimony is given. Any misuse of the platform or violation of the council's code of conduct will result in an immediate termination of speaking privilege. And finally, as always, if there is testimony you are not able to provide or wish to get to us in a different manner, please feel free to contact any one of us individually or together via email or voicemail. And with that, our first public hearing, an ordinance concerning Chapter 4 offenses, adding section 4.040 to the Eugene Code 1971, amending sections 4.330, 4.340, 4.731, 4.755, 4.906, and 4.922 of the code, and amending section 2.773 of the Eugene Code 1971 to make a correction. And I now open this proposed hearing. If you wish to testify, please raise your virtual hand to join the speakers queue in one of 2 ways. For those viewing on the meeting on a computer, laptop, or other device, click once on the what is now a yellow hand icon, I believe. And for those listening to the meeting on a phone, press *9. Requests will be accepted until the first person begins to speaking. The meeting moderator will unraise or disallow any requests to speak that are made after the deadline. When the hearing begins, the moderator will announce 2 speakers' names at a time. When it is your turn, the moderator will announce your name and promote you to a panelist status, and you will have 3 minutes to speak. So I now open the public hearing.
Our first speaker is Otis Hachmeier. Please unmute. Otis, can you please unmute? It is your turn to speak.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. This is Zandi Zinke, not Otis Hachmeier. I apologize for my outburst last week. What I'll speak to tonight might enlighten you to why I feel so unhinged and harassed as somebody who is regularly advocating for justice in the city. I'm speaking tonight in objection to the proposed ordinance concerning Chapter 4 offenses, with particular regard to the amendment of section 4.330 and related sections having to do with how animal abuse and neglect is defined. As written, the proposed changes open the door for unhoused people, those who own animals, to be criminalized for animal neglect in the second degree, and not only that, also to lose possession of their beloved companions. The proposed changes address the requirement of access to adequate shelter with the specific addition that keeping an animal inside a vehicle in shelters made from cardboard or other materials that are easily degraded by the elements, whether that includes a tent or not, I do not know, and animal carriers or crates that are designed to provide temporary housing are all now, with this proposal, disallowed as provisions of adequate shelter. Of course, I have concern over the welfare of animals. This concern, however, does not cancel out my concern of putting people denied housing at further risk of criminalization and dispossession. The language of the ordinance around animal protections can be rewritten with an allowance around failures to provide adequate shelter if the pet owner is themselves unhoused. Last week, City Manager Mederi asked the public to extend faith that the sweeping language around a solid waste administrative proposal was not meant to impact unhoused people. Now we have an ordinance proposal which identifies housing status as a targeted factor in bias crimes while simultaneously discriminating against unhoused people. Please, enough is enough. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes the public hearing.
Thank you. I now close the public hearing. Are there any comments or questions from council? Councilor Syret.
Sorry, it's probably in our AIS, but when will this be coming back to us for a vote? Will it be a separate item, or do you plan to put it in a consent agenda?
We don't typically put it in consent. It was going to be calendared and brought back to you. I don't think it's on the tentative agenda yet, but it will be.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions or comments, I will proceed to the second public hearing of the evening, an ordinance concerning disposition of Eugene Water and Electric Board real property and amending section 2.196 of the Eugene Code 1971. I now open the hearing on this disposition of eWeb real property. If you wish to testify, please raise your virtual hand now to join the speaker's queue in one of two ways. For those viewing the meeting on a computer, laptop, or other device, click once on the hand icon. For those listening to the meeting on a phone, press *9. Again, requests will be accepted until the first person begins speaking. Your hand will be unraised, and any others requests to speak are disallowed after that deadline. When the hearing begins, the moderator will announce 2 speakers at a time. When it is your turn, the moderator will announce your name and promote you to a panelist status, and you have 3 minutes. City Manager, do you wish to introduce this topic?
Thank you, Mayor. I can. So the purpose of this public hearing is to consider amendments to Eugene Code 2.196, the code section that specifies the process that eWeb must follow when they determine that real property it owns is no longer needed for eWeb purposes. The proposed amendments to 2.196 will set additional deadlines that must be met. So 180 days for the city manager and eWeb's general manager to agree to proposed terms, and 365 days for the 2 governing bodies to approve the terms, and shortens the deadline for the overall process from 5 years to 3 years. I think you're muted.
Better if I unmute. With that, I open the public hearing.
We have 2 for the public hearing. First, we have Frank Lawson, followed by Zondi.
Yes, councilors, can you hear me okay? Great, thank you. Mayor Venus, councilors, good evening. My name is Frank Lawson. I'm a resident of Ward 4, but most of you know me as the CEO and General Manager of eWeb. Good evening. I wanted to provide testimony this evening in support of the proposed amendments to City Code 2.196 relating to how eWeb and the city will work together in the future on surplus real estate. First, I would like to thank the city manager and the city attorney for cooperating and collaborating with myself and eWeb and city staff on the proposed changes, along with all the other things that we work on and share in the community as well. The proposed code changes will help facilitate future eWeb and City of Eugene opportunities, will appropriately include council and board decision points, and will provide a solid process that's fair to customer owners and the citizens that we both serve. The language as proposed is specific enough to clarify the expectations of future real estate property transactions and will still provide the flexibility to work together if or when real property issues become more complicated. And so it's flexible as well as providing good guidance. Ultimately, I believe that future councilors, eWeb commissioners, general managers, city managers, and city attorneys will thank us for providing clarity to this chapter of the code that was originally crafted back in the 1980s. Thank you for your consideration and for the opportunity to thank city staff for their work on this proposed code amendment. And so thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Frank. Next is Zondi.
Can you hear me? I had not prepared to talk on this, but since I'm here, I will take the opportunity to note something in the conversation that you had during the council meeting on this topic. That is that when, I believe it was Mike Clark, brought up that many people in the past have expressed interest in the city, in the eWeb property, possibly serving this as a city property in some way, particularly possibly for a city hall, and that eWeb as part of this proposal tonight or agreement at hand tonight was looking to require that the city make a decision on whether they are interested in purchasing the property or not, and that to not indicate that they were at this point would be foregoing the what I interpret as right of first refusal, but in any case being the only one to entertain, having, I think, right of first refusal to that property. And I think Claire Syrett said, well, we're not actually giving up the opportunity to purchase. We could just do it on the open market. I think that is an awfully cavalier way to just say, oh, it's not a big deal, as if purchase things on an open market as opposed to with exclusive rights is the same thing. This is public money, public resource we're talking about. It reminds me of when there were proposals for the CET tax, and it took Emily Semple asking why city staff had written in a max tax, as if this society is due for a maximum tax for those projects that are 200 million, in excess of 200 million. And Denny Bo said, oh, it's a reasonableness test. That is absurd, and that is not city staff working for the people. Stop it. Thank you.
Thank you, Zondi, and that concludes public participation in the public hearing.
Okay, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate the testimony, appreciate Frank coming and talking about this important agreement and important partnership that we have with eWeb. Are there counselors? Let's see. I guess I now close the public hearing and open it for the counselors to comment. I see Councilor Syrett.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to respond to that public comment. I have absolutely zero interest at this point in purchasing the eWeb building for City Hall. So I wasn't attempting to express cavalierness about that. I was trying to clarify a question that other colleagues on this council had about what are the implications of us doing this? Does it forego our ability to try to purchase that building? It does not. It is a public building, and I absolutely agree. We need to be mindful of how we spend public dollars, and it was purchased with public dollars, and I would like, be great if eWeb had that in mind as they disposed of that property, but it is theirs to dispose of and not ours. And I think we have, for me, it would not be the best use of the city's public dollars to purchase that building for a future City Hall. So I just want to clarify why I made those comments when we were having that discussion in the past. And I also appreciate, Zondi's making public comment, and I appreciate Mr. Lawson coming to affirm that he thinks the product that city staff came up with meets the needs of his agency as well.
Thank you. Any other counselors with comments or questions? All right, with that, I believe we can close. We are finished, and our public hearing evening is closed, adjourned. So have a good evening, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow. Happy Inauguration Day.